Welcome to Flipping Miami, a podcast for those who want to learn real estate investing, do more, and make more. Now, here is your host, Raul Bolufe.
Now let's work into the intro. Let's fast forward. So you got into real estate, and now what we can talk a little bit about what you did, but let's talk about what is going on right now in real estate for you, and what does your world look like as your company and stuff.
So the summary is, when I first got in, it was all my buddy gave me, it was 3-ring binders and CDs.
Ooh, like Ron LeGrand stuff?
Well, yeah, Ron LeGrand, Chris Kirshner, stuff like that. So getthedeed.com, subject to short sales, right? Pre-foreclosures were big. I went through all that stuff. And actually we landed on, so this was in 2004 at this point in time. We landed on just going out with realtors and making offers on the MLS, buying them from banks. And, the guy that I started it with originally, we both had good income, good corporate incomes and good credit. We got a couple lines of credit and we just started buying houses. And within 6 months back then, pre-bust, I would make money every time I bought a house because I would negotiate the deal. So I would buy it at a higher price. And I'd borrow money at 80% of appraised value, but I'm buying it at 70%. So every time I bought a house, I was just getting I was walking away from closing with 10, 15 grand in my pocket to buy the house, which is by the way, it's not a good idea to suck the equity out of a deal that isn't rehab yet, isn't rented. So there was no pressure to do anything. So we had houses sitting there, kind of halfway rehabbing them, halfway not. But within 6 months, we ramped it up. We started buying as many as 5 a month. We were just flipping them to homeowners, listing them with realtors. So I quit my job. So in 2005, I went full time. So I'm about ready to hit. I'm right at actually 15 years. I've been doing it. I'm almost 15 years full time. We rode that through 2006. We're very seasonal here because it's wintertime. So at that first year, 2005, we were rehabbing pretty crazy. 2006 in the spring, the market didn't come back the way that it had the first year and a half we were doing it. And so we were a little concerned. So we started shifting our model so that in the end of 2006, going into that winter, we had switched to doing some rent to owns. So instead of having all of our houses sit on the market, waiting, costing us money, we put tenant buyers in. They just had to pay on time 12 months. You got all 12 checks they paid on time, and they could do a land contract refinance and just buy the house, right? That might be a little over the head of some of the people watching this. But the point was we shifted because of the market, but we were dependent on subprime mortgages.
Yeah.
And in 2008, so that lasted about a year. So in the spring of 2008, or at some point in 2008, all of our rent-to-owns became rent-to-rents.
That's a good quote.
Because there was no more subprime lending, so all these people that weren't financeable really weren't financeable.
Yeah, shit, I can't do anything. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of those deals, we had $100 grand in, which was median home price here at the time. We had them on contract at 130, and our payments, because we were financing things on a line of credit, our payments, with everything in, might be $800-900. We're only getting $1,000 rent. They're barely cash flowing, but we were looking for that $30,000 nut on the back. And then we counted on some of those turning. We had 15 of them going at a time. So that 1 or 2 was turning every month, and then it went to none. And then 2 or 3 people, we realized, well, they're actually really crappy tenants. If they're not going to buy the house, I don't want to put up with them anymore. Okay. But now, 2 or 3 of those rents got taken out of there. And now over a few months, we swelled to having 20 properties. We're like, this isn't cash flow anymore. We're never going to get this equity. So 2008 was an eye opener. So we kind of shifted to where, well, man, we could go down to having 50 grand or less into a house and still get 750 or 800 rent. Right. So 80% of the rent, 50% of the cost. This is a better model. So we shifted during 2009. We got into doing more rentals, and then we built that up to 40 or 50 of those. And then we couldn't buy all of them, but we also weren't getting rich off of the $800 rentals. So in 2010, we shifted towards doing bus tours with people from Hawaii and other places to sell. We were showing them how we were building rental portfolios. That was the beginning of the next couple of years of kind of bumbling our way into wholesaling. We didn't really mean to, but it was like I didn't go to a wholesaling course. I was just saying, hey, I know I can buy this house cheaper than you can. I'll buy it before you can, and I'll sell it to you for a little rip. And then at some point during those year or two, people start saying, well, hey, I'll buy it from you. Actually, I'll buy 2 or 3, but will you rehab it for me? You're already managing a bunch of your own houses. Can you manage for me? So we slippery sloped our way into becoming a turnkey provider. And so we did that pretty heavy in around 11, we got into it. Like, so 12, 13 was pretty heavy in that. Did several hundred of those. And so by 14, we had picked up some clients. What's that?
You say things so lightly. You're like, oh yeah, we built up 50 of those, and then we did several hundred of those, and like people like that'll go over way. People are gonna be like, what? Who? Wait, what? The kid that was like inconsistent in high school and barely knew what he was gonna do did hundreds of those. But that's awesome. That's what I want to portray. Like, we're all normal people. Steve, you're a normal dude. Like, you've been able to do so much, and it all kind of started from you didn't even know. Like, you didn't even know that. Like, if you're in high school, if I were to talk to you junior year, like, Steve, dude, you ended up doing thousands of homes. You would have been like, you're crazy.
Dude, junior year of college, I would have said that. In high school, like when I was in my 20s, I would have been like, what? Yeah.
And by the way, is this same guy from the gym? Is your partner still today? Or is it a different guy? Oh, different guy. Okay.
So, like, during that time, we overlapped our skill sets a lot. And then he never left his day job. And he got higher and higher up in what he was doing. So he was never around. And literally, we provided no value to each other. And so I'm trying to be conscious of time to not tell the long version of the story. But what happened in 2014, a lot of those houses we sold off and we were just out of. But we were managing about 350 doors for about 100 clients that we had sold properties to. Any given time, we had 20 rehabs going for those people. And I was running it all. I was the CEO of the brokerage, the property management, the investment, construction companies. And it was a train wreck waiting to happen because a lot was going on, but I hated it. And you and I talked about this pre-show, but hustle and grind is a lie. Like, the time to work your ass off, there is a time for that, but it's not working your ass off when you care about it and you're excited. You're like pumped.
Yeah.
Where when you're working your ass off turns into, instead of being pumped and excited, it turns into hustle and grind. You're in a bad place.
Yeah.
That's like a red flag, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I'm passionate. I was telling you, Steve, I'm passionate about getting people on here who not only have like awesome businesses, doing real estate, wholesale, fixing all these things, but also that they take into account that their lives are first. Like, they're doing this for their life, Like, I know Steve personally, he vacations a lot just because I know we've been on masterminds together. He has his own masterminds that he does. He spends time with his family. Overall, the business works for him. And it wasn't always that way. I imagine, Steve, like you're talking about now. And that was only 2014. You were hustling for everything else instead of everything else hustling for you. And I think that's fucking awesome, by the way. It's fucking awesome. What a cool story. I didn't even know that about you. So, and now that what is happening right now in your world? So 2014 happened. You kind of split from your partner, all these, you did hundreds of houses, 50, this, that, different business models. And now, like, what does it look like right now? And how did you get there?
Yeah. So let me set up what now is so in 2013, we used to use a software called Infusionsoft. And I went to the Infusionsoft conference, and there was a speaker there who has a book called Starts With Why.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And also, I met a lady there who was in real estate, and her and her mom owned 25 Keller Williams brokerages around the country.
Oh, shit.
Most of them had in the hundreds of agents. And they were serial entrepreneurs. And she's like, you should read this book. This is 2013. So this is, 6 years ago, actually 6.5 years ago. It's March of 2013. She handed me EOS traction. She's like, read this book. I hadn't heard of it in anybody at the time. And so I went through it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a manual and a Bible on how to run a business. Right. And remember, I've got hundreds of houses we're managing. I got hundreds of clients. I got dozens of contractors that work for me and all these employees. And I needed it so bad, but I couldn't get out of chapter 1. So to your point, the first chapter in that book is core values. And so my management team does all the core values with me for the turnkey business, what would make sense to those clients. And I'm like, I don't care about any of this. Like, time, I was never killing myself, but I was stressed constantly. So even when I wasn't at work, I was mentally at work. So I was checked out. I wasn't mentally with my family, and I was gone like all day, like a normal day. And I was stressed at night, and I hated it. And then I sat down and did my core values myself, and I showed those guys, my management team, and they're like, well, that sounds cool for you, but our clients, this isn't going to resonate with anybody in our business. And so because I'm so stubborn, I'm like, you know what, maybe this is the wrong business. So the shift was in 2014, I realized we got to get out of property management. And I thought that's all we were going to do was get out of that. But I realized I killed everything. I tell you, sometimes like I feel like, so I have a pretty strong faith, and I feel like God has these plans for everybody. And I think like I look back on all these things that were happening, and to me, they were just challenges, and their hurdle would come up, I would knock it down. They were probably warning signs for me, but I wasn't listening, and they kept getting bigger and bigger. And I feel like God was probably sad because at the end, he's like, all right, bro, you're not listening to me. So let me put the smack down. And so I had this plan to eloquently get myself out of all my management clients. And because I'm an entrepreneur and visionary and I didn't have an integrator like my current partner, Brian, by the way, those 110 clients I had 14 different property management arrangements with 100 and whatever clients. And I was a joint venture partner on several of those. So many of those houses we had, like I guaranteed rents on some. I was an equity partner on some were in my name, but I was giving the rents to someone else. Like it was it was like a Wild West, right? And that's why I was so stressed, because there was no semblance to what we were doing. And so to kind of bring that to what happened, when I started to back out, like it took more like 6 weeks. Everything just fell. People were like, wait, what? You're getting out of business? Like, that's not cool. Well, all these loose ends that nobody cared about when the ship kept rolling, everybody started caring about them. And so I'm suing people, they're suing me. I'm firing people I care about. People are quitting. My business partner at the time, so I had a couple partners. My broker partner, who was a licensed broker, told me that, hey man, I've been drinking heavy. I haven't told you, but I'm living in a hotel. I'm separated from my wife.
Whoa.
My 2 daughters, like I'm struggling. I gotta get out. So he was like, I'm moving my license, and his health was horrible. And like all this is coming at me at the same time. I'm like, my core values are screwed up in this business. I'm not happy with what I'm doing. Man, I would like be in my office and I would mute my phone, do not disturb. And I would fake like I was having a phone call so I could walk through my office. So people would leave me alone. They'd be like, Steve. I'd be like, yeah. I was like trying to stop people, like just to go pee.
Wow.
To get out of my office, because like 15 people in my office they would all want something. You know what I mean? Like, and I just hated it so bad. And then that's what I'm saying, dude. My personality to care about people is I would probably still be dealing with everybody, trying to like slowly pull the Band-Aids off. But it just got ripped off, dude. It was horrible. And maybe it's another podcast to explain how to deal with how to struggle. But the point is this. After 10 years of running that business and all the success I had and all the knowledge I had, it was the hardest thing I ever had to do in business. But I was able to literally hit the do-over button. And for a year, dude, it was hard. I mean, it was like really hard. And that's just in 2014 and 15.
Right around the corner back then, yeah. Fuck.
Man, I just heard, I don't know if your listeners listen to that, like check these guys out, but you know, Kent Clothier is one of our friends and one of our coaches. Have you heard his Ryan Newman podcast?
No.
You know Stewman? Ryan Newman, the foreclosure guy.
I'm gonna write it down. No, I haven't heard it.
I mean, he is literally crushing Ryan Stewman is crushing it. If any of you guys are watching this, check him out, the Hardcore Closer.
Oh, I have heard of him and I've seen his stuff, but I haven't seen the one with Kent. No.
I mean, doing millions of dollars in multiple businesses, right? And they were telling a story where he was at Boardroom event 5 years ago in 2014, and he went to California and thought pot was legal to smoke anywhere. He had a pen and he was like hitting it in the conference in the front row, like puffing smoke out. And then he had like some bad weed and he broke out in lumps. And then he didn't show up the second day. And Kent was like, who's this idiot? Like, he's crazy looking. He's smoking weed inside the hotel. He doesn't show up. And then 5 years later, they're on a podcast together. I mean, I was just sitting here thinking the same thing. Like, anyone who's listening that thinks that they've got this unbelievable hill to climb, man, your whole life can change in like 6 to 12 months. And when it doesn't, not everything changes, but you can change direction. And then the next 6 to 12 months,
insane.
It's insane. And you know from the mastermind, dude, our lives can change in 6 minutes. Somebody can say one thing to us and we implement it the next month, right?
It happens every time.
Yeah. So just to finish what you asked me, because I know you want me to say it. So because of that, I met my current partner, and Brian is a heavy integrator. I'm a heavy visionary. We mesh perfectly together, and we do some rehabs. He's a licensed broker. We have a few things going on, but we decided to focus on building a wholesale funnel because it's all about building our team that can just market and get deals and close deals. And then we're really focused on that as we're on the back end of an upcycle in the market so that we can be really good at finding the deals. Right now, we wholesale most of them. But we know we can rent them. We can finance.
We can do all that.
Yeah. So for us, it's the model.
What does your team look like now? Like, so it's you and Brian. You're visionary CEO. Brian's integrator. And then, I remember talking to you in your mastermind, and you have a really cool like structure. So I wanted to kind of dig into that a little bit. I think you got like a one acquisitions guy who mainly handles your leads. Then you have a couple like callers or something. I don't know if you can get into it.
At the top, we've got a couple guys that are lead generators, and they're basically like our bench players for acquisitions. Like they're eventually going to get into acquisitions. And so one of them's licensed even. They're both awesome. A lot of people use VAs for this position, but they're running like the dialer, cold calling, all the direct sales. Yeah, they're working the phones, right? And so they're lead gen guys. They get paid a fee, but they warm the leads up. They all go to a lead manager, and our lead manager is a stud. I think you met Dave at the mastermind, Dave Miller.
Yeah, really cool guy.
Used to run his own business, so he's by no means some kind of lightweight hourly staff member. He's a licensed agent. He's ran his own wholesale business. He wanted to plug into our system, so he's mentoring those guys, and he's working to acquisition. So he takes all the leads and he'll vet out the ones he needs to a little more, but he hands them out. So we've got 3 positions for acquisitions right now. There's only 2 filled. That third spot, we're struggling with a guy in and he's gone. A guy in, he's like, we're struggling to keep someone there. But the model is set up to have 3. There's 2 right now. So there's 2 guys that funnel to 1 lead guy, and then he's distributing leads out round robin. And those guys are working the sellers, right? And then we have systems for follow-up and whatever. Those go into A to Bs. So that's us getting a contract with a seller. And then we have a dispositions manager who takes that and gets feedback from the market. So a lot of times he double closes it. If we don't, we may kick it out. If we don't like the deal, we get bad feedback, but we can also close. We've got plenty of capital to close on things. And then on the side, we've got a transaction coordinator who's a licensed agent as well. By the way, a couple of our acquisition guys are licensed agents.
Yeah.
So it gives us more clout, but our transaction guy is out here on the side, and he's finding deals and doing some other things. But mainly what he does is when the acquisition guys get an offer going verbally, they don't even spend time to write it up. They hit up our transaction guy and they're like, hey, do a DocuSign. Mr. Miller on Main Street said he'd do $40K net, no tax, proration, whatever, right? He handles that. And then he orders title and he starts transaction coordinating. Same thing when that deal goes down. Our dispo guy has a 10-day period where day 1 and 2, he's doing like whoever's top of mind, whoever he can talk to about the house. Day 3, an email goes out. Day 4, 5 is an open house. And by day 10, usually earlier, he's giving, this is our best offer. If it's high enough, we'll double close or we take it down or resell it, whatever. If it's not, We utilize whatever information we got to go back and renegotiate if possible. And then during that process, our transaction coordinator is doing all that paperwork too.
Love it. I love it.
And then when our acquisition guy gets a deal, an A to B contract, our lead manager, Dave, is actually back in the seat again. He's the one that calls and says, hey, great, I'm glad you guys, I'm excited for you. I want to introduce myself. Again, if you don't remember me, you talked to me before, but I'll be working with you until we get to the closing table.
Yeah.
And we do that, which if anyone's running wholesaling, this is an interesting thing that we really like, is so that he's a warm voice that they already kind of know. It gets our acquisition guys out of the back end loop so they can keep selling.
Yep.
Our transaction coordinator is more of an administrative guy, so he's not super good at doing the people thing on the phone. And then this guy, when he's down here, works with our dispositions. So when our disposition guy is telling him all the feedback, this guy's calling and saying, hey, you know what? Hey, we got to have a talk. Unfortunately, based on our findings, because of this, and this, your house doesn't qualify for the same pricing anymore, right? And there's a whole thing we could talk about someday with that, but how we handle it. But it's not about what we can pay. It's about what the house qualifies for. But he handles renegotiating. So he's on the front end when a lead comes in, and then he's on the back end when we're closing it down. So there's continuity in the team. And then I make sure the marketing goes out for everybody, and then I work with Dispo. And then Brian, as the integrator, works with acquisitions, analyzing deals, and the transaction coordinating. So we split duties that way. So that's our team.
Love it, man. Everyone's gonna need to rewind that and listen to that 4 times.
I know.
But not because you said it too fast. I think everything was awesome. It's just because there's so many little gold nuggets in that. That right there, what you said, if someone's really interested in building a wholesale team, you just saved them tons of money and time, right? Because just like me, we have very similar structures because we have similar coaches, right? But Steve, more than me, because he's been in the business way longer, you've probably done a variety of different structures, acquisitions and leads and blah, blah, blah. So this, you seem to be efficient. If you guys are interested in building a team, rewind that and listen to it 4 or 5 times, write it down, draw a little map. But that can save you so much time and money if you allow it. So thanks for that, man. That's
yeah.
2 last questions and then we're out. I know you got a meeting soon. Dude, what is in your mind? I know it might not be a goal or anything, but I always like to ask this question. I've asked everyone on the podcast. In real estate, what is the $100 million play in your mind?
So, interesting question. I think I would answer it this way in short. I don't want a $100 million company.
Right.
I don't want to work on a $100 million deal because they take too long and they're too hard.
Right.
Which goes against a little bit what I believe, because sometimes I think you can just add zeros and they're not that much harder. Sometimes it's easier because you're dealing with more
high-level people. Yeah.
But if you're saying, where's my $100 million business out of this? For me, it's going to be owning 8 to 10, $5 to $10 million businesses.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Perfecting lead management, lead conversion, and fulfillment. I mean, it's lead gen, conversion, and fulfillment. I don't care what business you are, and it's gobbling up our title company. We're already talking to them. Hopefully if they listen to this, they already know we're coming. But they're doing a couple $3 million a year, and the owner's like, hey, in 5 years I want to retire. And we're like, hey, we're super interested in the longevity of your company. We're one of your best clients.
Yeah.
You're our main title company, but we're having conversations like that. And Brian and I are such a good team, and I've gotten super deep with how to, and I think this is a point we wanted to make. Brian and I know exactly what our perfect day is. I know how much that money is going to cost my kids' private school, where we live, where we vacation, the masterminds we're in. I know what I need. Not my big why is down to I need to generate a certain amount of cash. And Brian too, we share that with each other each year. And we put that in, we know what, for us, we try to make 52% of our revenue is coming back to ownership some way or another. So we try to run our business on 48%. And so we look at that number, and that drives our revenue goal for the year based on what we want personally. That also drives how we're going to run the business, because our dashboard tells us we want 52% of that money. And then we work backwards from there to get to the business. That's how we set our business up to support us. And then the other piece for me is, as a visionary, I can't be tied to any anything that has to be done on a time basis for a client, I can't be in charge of it. So anytime somebody's waiting for me on something, I make a note of it and I make sure that never comes on my plate again. Like I'm okay supporting people, but it's not because I don't want to work. I spend, plenty of time supporting our staff and helping people, but it bogs me down and it's not good for me to be responsible for any certain tasks. And so it's been interesting for us to figure that out, to set it up. So because of that, we know how to set up the chart of accounts in our bookkeeping so we can see the dashboard that shows us our percentages. They're designed around the revenue we want is designed around what we want to make. That designs how many sales guys we need. It all lays out. And when we figure that out, we know how to use the predictive index testing or personality modeling to hire all these things. And we learn, hey, instead of growing this thing to like 10, 20, 30, 40 million, why don't we just take all that crap we learned? We can go apply it somewhere else and be kind of fun to redo it.
Yeah. You grow five or eight of those things, and each of them making a couple million a year. And if you ever want to sell them if you ever want to sell each of them based on what they make, and I think that's a great, that's really cool. That's gold, man. What you said there, that's awesome.
Less susceptible to one issue coming in and just wiping your whole business out too, right? Having $5-10 million businesses or whatever, very different.
In America, you're like one lawsuit away from. It might not ruin your business, but it'll ruin a big chunk. I'll tell you that. Yeah. You hear about that shit all the time. But, dude, that was an awesome answer. That's something that people should re-listen to. Now, I want to get to, like, the newbie real quick. Let's say we got a newer person listening to this. What's, like, one tactical tip that you can give somebody right now, like 2019, 2020, that they can do to get their first deal? Like, what would Steve do right now to get his first deal, like, if you had to do it?
So, we run a RIA here and do all these meetups. Like, I could easily get into like a 2-hour answer on this. I'll say this. There's 2 parts I'll give you guys. If you're new to the business and you're trying to make it happen, number 1 is like stay focused. Okay. And the focus needs to be on getting what you want. So what do you want that first deal to be? Kind of depends on what you're trying to get, why you're doing real estate. So is that first deal, is it cool to make $2,000 bird dogging a deal? Or does that not move the needle for you? So you need to make 20 or 30. So you got to do a flip, a rehab, right? Like know what you're getting into it for, and then be really focused on just
that's good.
That. And if $2,000 doesn't move the needle, don't spend a bunch of time doing stuff you're going to make $2,000 on, right? So be really focused, so that you don't have shiny object syndrome, because I think that's really normal for new people. But then secondly, just go find people that are doing once you focus on what you think you want, which may change, so pick one, right? But from there, then go find other people that are doing what you want and hang out with them. Just get in the way. Take them to lunch, hang out with them, work for them for free.
Yeah. Do what you got to do. We got Brian in there.
Brian just walked in.
Brian just walked in. What's up, man?
He just jumped on the phone. I just thought we could maybe
man. Just get the focus out.
But does that make sense?
Like, as far as like tactical, would you advise people to do like, let's say they want to do a wholesale deal and they're okay with making $2,000 to $5,000. Would you tell them to do like door knocking, cold calling, mail? Like what would be like your direction for them?
So yeah, if they don't have a marketing budget, I would say doing JV co-wholesale deals is really good. And so what I could probably answer this a few different ways, but I think one thing that would be really good to do, because this solves a lot of problems, is go to all the networking events you can, meet all the people you can, and get on every wholesaler's list. It's the same as hanging out with the people that are doing what you want to do, right? But look at every deal that comes in from their email and call them, be like, hey, I might have a buyer for this. Because you might, you don't know. Yeah. Why is this a good deal? I don't know this area. Can you explain it to me? Look at the pictures, read the price. What'll happen is you'll start to get a feel, I already got that one sold. And you'll be like, that must have been a hot deal, mental note. Then you call another one and they're like, yeah, they can't really give you a good answer. And 3 weeks later, it gets emailed out again at a lower price. Mental note, that's a crappy deal. But it's getting in the way of the business that's already happening. Like just insert yourself into other people that are doing it. And over time, like you'll start to be like, this sounds like this one came over and it's just like that one that sold really quick.
That's good.
I met this other dude the other day and I'm just going to call him. And even if you don't make much, just start getting the pieces together. And I think joining every wholesaler's email list in town is a great way to just get your feet underneath you.
Hell yeah, I love that. That's good advice. That's really good. Guys, Steve, man, how can people connect with you? Let's say they're in Indy, or let's say they just want to connect with you and kind of learn more about what you're doing or how you can help them and stuff.
Yeah, man. A couple ways. One, at Facebook's really good. We were joking beforehand, since I'm in my 40s.
Yeah. I'm on my Instagram, but you're like, I don't use that thing.
I do check it every once in a while, but Facebook would be really great. You can just look up Steve Richards on Facebook. Redevelop Indy is the name of our company. We do have a brand. The mastermind you came to is called The Business Behind Flipping. So there's some stuff out there they can find on that. But I would just say, hit me up on Facebook. Steve Richards, just my name. Hit me up personally. Messenger is a great way. In fact, how I told you, if I have anything that's on my plate that's involved in the day-to-day, I get it off. One cool thing I'll tell you guys about me is that I'm either really weird or I'm going to be the first guy. You all heard this. Like, I don't use email almost never anymore. People send me an email, and I'm like, my team knows they have to tell me, hey, we sent you an email, go look at it. Because I use Facebook Messenger, and I use an app called Voxer, and I text a little bit. And even on texting with you, like, I have to send voice notes because I don't even like typing. It's so crazy, dude. So I don't know if I'm a weird old guy but to me, email is like fax. Like, it's dead. It just doesn't know it yet. So Facebook is a great way to hit me on Messenger. And I'll throw my email out. It's steve@redevelopindy.com. I'm not great at finding them. If you guys want to send them to me, I warn you ahead of time, but I would love to connect. And I'll tell you, I just want to say this to you at the end of this. Like, I appreciate what you're doing, because a lot of guys do this and they don't have the same format. And not only do I enjoy being friends with you, but I appreciate seeing what you do. And I remember one of those second or third mastermind we were together when we first started, and you guys were like, oh, we bought this building and we're starting this and we're doing this. And I remember thinking, like, holy, you guys are like so young, and you got all these people crushing the phone, and everyone's like, the MLS is dead. And you're like, no, that's all we do. And I'm super impressed with what you guys do. So keep that up. And I really appreciate what you're doing in this podcast, because I think it's going to help a lot of people. So
yeah,
awesome.
That's the goal, man. I know, like, having the benefit of being able to pay for masterminds and be able to become friends with people like you. I think some people don't have that access just yet. So it's awesome to bring it up on a podcast or in a video and tell, like, a relatable story, man. Dude, we're all normal people, and you've been able to achieve so much, kind of just starting from nothing, really. So I like to share these types of things.
Yeah, man. Awesome.
And I appreciate you sharing, like, your business model and like some of the stuff you had there, and some tactical moves. I hope people can get a good value out of this. Man, look at the man, the myth, the legend right there.
That's the guy.
Like he just came out like a modeling shoot. Looks like he just came out like a photo shoot, like running or something.
Closing deals, man.
Yo, Steve. So thanks again, bro, and everybody for. If you like this episode, please follow Steve on Facebook. I'll put his thing on the show notes. You can check out our free stuff on raulbolufe.com or our podcast. And peace out. Steve, appreciate it, man.
All right, man. Take care. Peace.
Take care.